And what about lunar eclipses? The Earth's shadow is cast onto the moon as a perfect circle.
During a lunar eclipse, the Earth casts a round shadow on the moon. If the Earth were flat, we'd see a flat line going across the moon. Let me guess, the moon is woke.
Alright, welcome back to the channel. Today we are watching another point from Like an Astro, which is the same point as from Astro Kobe. What about lunar eclipses? Lunar eclipses cast a round shadow. It's the Earth, right? A round shadow. Spherical Earth. Apparently, if it were the flat Earth eclipsing the moon, it would be a flat shadow. And only sometimes when the moon was directly overhead and the sun was underneath the flat Earth would it cast a round shadow. Okay, so this is what a lunar eclipse is. Okay, so you have the sun here, you have the moon here, you have the Earth in between the sun and the moon. The Earth is between the sun and the moon, and so it casts a round shadow on the moon, and then it totally eclipses the moon. So that's what a lunar eclipse is. The Earth directly between the sun and the moon, and so it casts a shadow on the moon. Okay, with this phenomena, the globers assume that is the Earth in between the sun and the moon, and so it casts the shadow. There is a problem, though, as we experience a selenian eclipse. Okay, let me read this. A selenian or horizontal lunar eclipse occurs when both the sun and eclipsed moon are visible at the same time. So basically, a selenian eclipse is when the sun and the moon are both above the horizon, and yet a lunar eclipse is happening. So how can this be if the Earth is directly in between the sun and the moon? How can we see the sun and the moon both above the horizon? Shouldn't be able to see the sun while a lunar eclipse is happening, or you shouldn't be able to see the moon, one or the other. You can't see both at the same time. Okay, so the excuse down here you can see is the atmosphere refracts light, making the sun and moon appear higher in the sky than they really are. So basically, the claim is that when the sun and the moon are actually below the horizon, the physical curvature of the Earth, the Earth is actually in between the sun and the moon, but refraction due to the Earth's atmosphere bends the light that comes to your eyes, because everything that comes to your eyes is light. The light is bent upwards. It is bent higher in the sky, and so you are able to see the sun and the moon. So this is not actually the sun and the moon. It's a mirage. It's an illusion. The sun and the moon are actually down here, below the horizon, below the curvature of the Earth. But they are being refracted upwards. So that should be understandable. The sun is being refracted upwards. The moon is being refracted upwards. The light is bending upwards. Okay. So there's a problem with this, though. Light can only refract upwards 1 degree, approximately. 2 degrees at the most. The very most. Let's grant 2 degrees. If the Earth is directly in between the sun and the moon, really, this Earth here is not even directly in between the sun and the moon, but let's just grant it is the way it is here. This is more than 2 degrees. This is much more than 1 degree. How are these being refracted upwards many degrees? Okay, 1 degree, 2 degrees at the very most. The sun and the moon here are not being refracted just 1 degree. They're being refracted a lot. But let's grant that this mirage, this refraction, this illusion does actually take place. And the Earth is, in fact, in between the sun and the moon. How do you prove that? Do you see how your whole argument has just fallen apart? You use lunar eclipses to prove that the Earth is spherical, but you can't even prove that it is actually the Earth's shadow being cast on the moon. You have to make up these excuses. Oh, it's refraction. If that's the case, how do you even prove that it's the Earth's shadow? You can't. Okay? You need to prove that. Here is a video done by some guy. He is observing a lunar eclipse.
Okay, so it's now about 7:04 a.m. and over my shoulder you probably cannot see anything, but through the stacks of the refinery back there we can just barely make out a little bit of the moon left. It's about 2/3 the way covered with Earth shadow, and it's turning a sort of pale.
Okay, so see right here, you can see the alleged shadow of the Earth. Here's the moon, the shadow approaching from this direction here.
Orange, pinkish color, but with the bright morning sun coming up, there's not enough contrast to be able to.
Note as well that the sun is
Coming up. There's not much.
Sun is coming up. You can see sun is not directly opposite of the moon, with the Earth in between.
Not enough contrast to be able to see the moon there. We can still see it just a little bit. What I find very interesting is I was expecting the shadow to come upward across the moon as it would go down and it would pass into shadow, and actually it's going the other way around. The shadow, as the moon is here, the shadow is creeping down across the moon, even though the sun's coming up over here, and that must be because of the moon's rotation around the Earth. It's moving.
Okay, so now listen to his excuse. Okay, listen to his explanation here.
Farther up, even though the sun's light is actually coming from over there, it's actually coming underneath the Earth. So if you imagine, the sun is here, the Earth is here, and the moon is back here, and this light was coming under the Earth, but the moon must be rotating around even though we're turning, so it looks like the moon is going down. It's kind of an optical illusion. It's pretty
Genius, right? Pretty genius. I want you to think about that. So basically what he's saying is that the sun is not above the horizon up here. So the sun is actually right here. It's not actually at the horizon. It's right here. The moon is here. The sun's light is bending underneath the Earth. And the light is hitting the bottom of the moon here. And so the shadow of the Earth is approaching at the top of the moon. So not only is the sun being refracted upwards many degrees, but the sun's light is bending all the way underneath the Earth and hitting the moon here. Like, imagine if one of us flat earthers explained our phenomena like that. Like, you would be laughing. Like, do you not realize how ridiculous that is? The sun is not actually above the horizon. The sun is actually here. Okay? The Earth is actually between the sun and the moon, even though it's clearly not. Like, from what we can see, the sun and the moon are both above the horizon. And yet, in reality, the sun is down here. The Earth is directly in between the sun and the moon. And the sun's light is bending underneath the Earth. Yikes. Okay, keep watching.
cool. So the sun is scheduled to set at 7:08. I'm sorry, the sun will rise at 7:08. The moon is scheduled to set at 7:08. So exact same time. So we might actually catch a glimpse of both for a brief moment as the moon is disappearing.
Look how nervous his smile was. It almost looks like he was nervous there. Like,
As the moon is disappearing.
look at that smile, and then he just goes like right back to his serious face. I don't know. I find it funny.
Okay, let's see. Go ahead. You're on? We're on again. Well, it is now officially 7:08, and if you look behind us, The sun is just starting to peek up over the tree, so you can't quite see the sun. And behind us, yeah, the moon has pretty much disappeared into eclipse. But
Okay, so you heard him say the sun is just peeking over the horizon and the moon is fully eclipsed. Okay, so we know that if this is indeed the shadow of the moon, that the Earth is directly in between the sun and the moon at this time. And the sun is rising now. So you can see the sun peeking over the horizon. That means the sun is being refracted drastically. Like, that's what you gotta believe if you want to claim that it is the Earth's shadow on the moon.
otherwise, it would be setting right now, but it has been fully eclipsed for just a few minutes, so it disappeared just a couple minutes ago. And you can just see a sliver of the sun through the trees there. You see it now? Can you see it in the camera? Zoom.
It's right. It's right
lens.
there.
Just a tiny little sliver of brightness coming through the trees as the sun is peeking up. And that's, of course, exactly 180 degrees this direction, 180 degrees the other direction from me is where the moon is. So they're in a perfect line, the moon being this way.
Yeah, you hear that? He says they're in a perfect line. Like this, they're in a perfect line. Like, do you see how much faith you have to have that this is the shadow of the Earth on the moon? This is the shadow of the Earth on the moon. Do you realize how much faith you have to have in that? When you can see that the sun is risen and the moon is in the sky. Like, do you know how much faith you have to believe that this is happening when it's clearly not? Now you have to defend that it is the Earth's shadow, that the Earth is, in fact, coming directly between the sun and the moon. You have to prove that in order to say, ha, I got you. The Earth is not flat. Like, you have to prove that.
The sun being that way, and if we drew a line from it to the Earth, to the moon, it would be a nice, perfect straight line, of course. If it wasn't, they wouldn't be in line and we wouldn't be having a lunar eclipse.
So that means it must be the Earth's shadow. Like, it must be a direct line because we're having a lunar eclipse. Like, he didn't stop for 1 second and think, is that actually the Earth's shadow? Like, I'm seeing two phenomena here that are impossible, or at least very unlikely, if this is the Earth's shadow. Yet it is the Earth's shadow. Like, where is this proven? This isn't proven. This is like such a biased assumption. There's another problem as well. So we know due to the Earth's rotation, the shadow that is being cast on the moon should approach from the west. Okay, this shadow should always be coming from the west. Okay, so here is a clip from Rob Skiba. You might have heard of him. He was a very great guy. He made some great content. So this is part of his video, and he is addressing the idea of lunar eclipses, how it is the Earth's shadow on the moon.
And frankly, the whole idea of the moon going into a blood red lunar eclipse while the sun is still up, in my mind, obliterates the whole idea that the lunar eclipse is due to the sun, earth, and moon being in a line and the moon in the shadow of the earth. It doesn't work.
And to the west, we have the moon in a total lunar eclipse. It's blood red. See that? So how can there be a lunar eclipse? How can the Earth be causing that when the sun is up over here?
I also had the chance to observe an interesting blood red lunar eclipse on September 27th, 2015. And when I did, the so-called shadow of the Earth didn't appear on the moon as it should have. Whatever eclipsed it came from the wrong direction. Here's a clip from the video I did on that.
It's where the moon popped up. The only problem is the sun had just set about an hour and 45 minutes earlier right behind us, and yet the shadow was coming from this direction, which is north. How did the shadow from the Earth being cast by the sun, which set in the west, end up coming from the north? Sun went down in the west right behind us. Shadow of the Earth came from the north, on the left side of the moon, which is the side facing north. So if the sun went down behind us in the west, you would think the shadow would have been on the bottom of the moon instead of the left side of the moon.
Okay, I think that was pretty self-explanatory. I think he did a very good job presenting that. Here is a demonstration I did on how the lunar eclipse should happen all the time and how it happens some of the time in reality. So you have west and east. The shadow should approach the moon from the west. Shadow approaches from the west. This is the way it should happen all the time. From the west. Okay, that's the way it should happen every time. From the west. Your cardinal direction is west. That's where it should approach. So now you have the sun and the moon above the horizon. So this is the way it happens in reality. So in reality, we have this mysterious shadow coming from the east. It's coming down from the east up here, from the east instead of the west. Like, how do you explain that? And both the sun and the moon are above the horizon. Like, how do you explain that? So yeah. Anyways, here's another observation that a friend of mine did. Okay, so in this video, we were experiencing a total lunar eclipse. So the video on the right, you can kind of see the shadow approaching the moon. But in the video on the left, you can't see it very well because the camera quality was not the best. But the shadow was coming from the south, so the direction my finger was pointing, that's the direction the shadow was coming from, the south. And so that direction was east, that direction's south, that direction's east, that's west, and that's north. So it should come from the west. The shadow of the Earth should come from the west, but it came from the south, which destroys the globe. At least it proves that it's not the shadow of the Earth, which is the globe's claim. So, yeah, the shadow came from the wrong direction from what the globe predicted compared to what I observed. Okay, so yeah, you can see the shadow is constantly coming from the wrong direction. Okay, why is it coming from the wrong direction? It's not coming from the west. It's coming from the east. It's coming from the south. It's coming from the north. Why is this happening? You can't claim refraction. Okay, you can't claim that the sun's light is bending all the way around the earth. I mean, you can claim those things. It's ludicrous. It's ridiculous. But you can claim them. Go ahead and claim them. I don't care, but like you're not getting anywhere. Basically, you lost your proof. You can no longer prove with lunar eclipses that the Earth is quote unquote round. You need to lose that word, the word round. You need to lose it. Round is you need to use the word spherical and everything. But anyways, like you can claim that it's refraction. You can claim that it's light bending. I don't care, but you might as well drop it. It's not like if you drop it and move to something else and say like it's some other shadow, a shadow of something else that we don't know about, or it's polarization or something. If you say that, you still have your globe to cling to. It's not like it disproves the globe model. So like you can drop the claim that lunar eclipses prove a globe Earth. Just drop it. Like you don't need to make yourself look ridiculous. You don't need to make these ludicrous claims that there's refraction and light bending, which is like super unlikely. Like you don't need to claim these things. So anyways, to close, this is what we should see, the shadow approaching from the west every time, but instead we see it approaching in different directions. Here it's west, we see it approaching from the east. It's constantly not right. It's constantly coming from the wrong direction. And we constantly see the sun and the moon above the horizon, and yet lunar eclipses are observed. So I will be coming out with more videos in the future addressing the following points made by Astro Kobe and Like an Astro. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day or a good night wherever you are.
To make myself believe that planet Earth turns slowly. It's hard to say that I'd rather stay awake when I'm asleep, because my dreams are bursting out.